Have you ever caught yourself wondering, why is my adult child making these choices? Maybe their decisions feel completely out of left field or even hurtful or harmful for themselves. But what if I told you that there's often a deeper reason behind the choices? Many times you may not see that right away, as I didn't. In this video, I want to peel back some of these layers, and this is not all inclusive, each of your family's different, but this is going to give you a really good foundation on what could be driving their behavior and also how you as a mom can respond in a way that builds connection instead of conflict, which is our goal here, right? So by the end of today's video, I want you to be able to have a clearer understanding of what's possibly influencing their behavior, but also how to approach it with some wisdom and some compassion. And today I have 4 tips for you, so let's dive in. Number 1 is the role of personal values and beliefs. Adult children develop their values and their beliefs from us, their initial ones, because that's how we raise them. They may differ than those that they were raised with, right? So they're having their own, and so their life influences them, life experiences, their education, their exposure to different perspectives. So for example, like if maybe you value a certain tradition and a family faith or unity, and so they might prioritize their own independence in that and want to explore other things. So that can be a huge reason. Also, society, the pressures that society puts on our kids, generational trends, such as prioritizing work-life balance or pursuing unconventional career paths, one that maybe isn't typical for your family. It can seem like irresponsible. It can seem puzzling to those of us in a different generation. But their peer influence can also further complicate things. So as young adults, oftentimes they're looking to their friends or social groups for guidance, for validation. They're not so much coming to parents anymore. But in order to support them, we want to make sure that we acknowledge these shifts without judgment. Because I can promise you one thing, if you don't meet your kids where they're at, you're going to push them away. And I don't want that for you. So we want to be able to create that foundation for better communication and mutual respect. That's what everybody wants. Number 2 is emotional factors. Many life choices are stemming from deeper emotional or even psychological needs. A lot of these things could be unresolved childhood experiences, such as feeling misunderstood, or maybe they feel like they weren't supported. That can influence their decisions. So these are just things to ponder, things to think about. So if your child grew up feeling like they had to meet high expectations, they might rebel or pursue a path that prioritizes more freedom. Many times they tend to do the opposite, like we did with our parents. Emotions like fear or insecurity can drive this behavior. So if that is your child and they're fearing failure, that could lead them to avoid risk or feel insecure about their identity because they're not really sure who they are. And that can make their choices appear very impulsive, very inconsistent. So keep that in mind. Also, parents in general, moms and dads here, we unknowingly trigger the emotion. For example, if we're asking probing questions or offering unsolicited advice, which we know we're not supposed to do, it might remind them of their past. It might remind them of past feelings of control or criticism, whether that is from you or that is from other people in their world. It doesn't matter who it's coming from. But we want to allow their choices to come with some compassion instead of frustration. You don't have to agree with them, but we do need to approach it with love if you want a relationship with them. So speaking of that, for those of you ready to take the next step in taking care of you during this difficult time, you're ready for coaching, you want to learn more about that, I want you to reach out to me. So this is what I do. I do group coaching and one-on-one coaching. If you're interested in either, reach out via the discovery call link in the description, and would love to have a 30-minute consultation with you. It's not a coaching call, but this call is for moms who are ready to prioritize their own well-being. If you're not ready for that right now, that's okay. Continue watching videos and learning more. But when you're ready to start implementing what you're learning, I look forward to chatting with you. Number 3 is external pressures. The world really challenges us sometimes, and they can also significantly impact the choices that your adult children are making. So there could be, financial struggles. There could be high debt, the high cost of living. Our kids right now can barely find an apartment to be able to afford, right? So this can limit their opportunities, and then it shapes their priorities. So you might see them living at home longer. I'm not opposed to if they're doing it, if they're respectful and it's a good arrangement. Many times it's not a good arrangement. That's where the trouble comes in. But if it's delaying major milestones, then they're not progressing, and we don't want that for them. They could have a valid reason. Also, social media adds another layer of complexity, and we all know that. But young adults often do feel pressure to present this curated version of themselves, which also can lead them to make choices based on appearances versus real authenticity of who they really are. And so they might choose something that looks impressive but doesn't really align with their true interests or values. But your kids, this could be part of the issue, especially the younger adult children. So maybe in their 20s, they could be chasing something. It could have nothing to do with you. It doesn't allow the disrespect to be there, though. I just want you to understand that these pressures are real. Think about it when it comes to having some empathy and patience in what they've got going on. And number 4 is, how do you respond? You can shift your perspective from frustration to curiosity. Like, ask yourself, what is this choice that my son or daughter is making? What does it reveal about their needs or struggles? I love that question, because instead of assuming that their decision is a rejection of you, what if you view it as an opportunity to understand them on a deeper level? So if you have the opportunity, some of you do, some of you don't, to be able to have those open-ended questions like, what led you to this decision? Or how are you feeling about where you're at right now? That can open the door to meaningful conversations where there's no judgment, no unsolicited advice, all these things that we tend to do when we're not trying to, cause any harm. It's just sometimes that comes out because we're frustrated on the inside. So we need to respect boundaries, as do they, right? So we want to do that, but still be supportive. If we can do both of those together, that's powerful. And it shows them that you value them as a person while still being available for guidance if and when they want it. I think a problem for a lot of you moms is you're waiting for them to ask you for advice that they're not asking. So you feel very isolated and separated from them. But just remember that you raise them to empower them to live their own life. And while I do hope and pray that your family comes back together, which I believe it will, but at the end of the day, right now, they are surviving out there because of what you had taught them when they were younger. I want you to remember that. There's power in that too. I'll see you next time. God bless.